Hello, everybody. Good morning. I am at this moment starting to try to make some content in English language. I can speak it a little bit. Of course, I cannot express myself with the same naturality in English than in Spanish, but I will be trying to create some English content also because I think it is important to have, an international audience and also to practice my English. That it is not the best, but I think it's quite acceptable. And at this time, I will be recording my first video in English language with a theme that is correlated with this matter. It's the relationship between Mexico and the United States. In recent times, I have seen how tensions between United States and Mexico have increased, and it is due, I think, to several different factors. One of them is the anti-Mexican rhetorics of Donald Trump. Of course, I don't think Donald Trump is perfect. I think Donald Trump has a lots of mistakes. He's not a good person, but he is the most powerful guy in the world. He is the president of the United States, and many of his policies have, a real meaning. They resonated with American people and they are common sense. I agree with several of his policies, but of course not with all of them. I don't think Trump is kind of like a god or a supernatural hero who is here in order to save the world from the far left. I don't think so. He's just a human being, an exceptional one. I was following the American political landscape during the a stage of time previous to the election that she ultimately won, and I was realizing about how the far left, was trying to imprison him, was trying to destroy him. And I was very attentive when he suffered the attempt of murder, and all those things just made him like stronger, and they were direct causes for his electoral triumph. And I was not like happy, but I was glad that he won because many of his policies, his points of view are common sense and are trying to deliver again to the American people what was normal before, just some basic questions that are cultural matters that were and are very important in several fields, like, in the cultural war, like gender sense. I think he is enemy of the promotion of gender ideology. I don't care about someone who is a man or a woman and thinks he is the or she is the opposite. I don't care about it. I think it is a matter of personal decision and a matter of self-perception. And in that case, I don't feel like bothered by that. But what I don't think that is good is that the government promotes such a behavior, because, for example, the specific matter about how is it called, trans childhood. I think it's nonsense that little children who are not able to buy a cigarette at the corner store are able to decide whether or not they are a man or a woman, by being biological men or women, that they decide when they are 8 or 9 or 10 that they are of the opposite sex, and that they start with, receiving hormones, chemicals, and even irreversible surgical procedures to change their sex. That it's not possible. The sex is that matter that the sex is designated when you are born is not okay. It's wrong. The sex is designated at the very moment of the fecundation, when the pregnancy comes, when the sperma enters into the female egg, and it's a matter that is decided from that very moment. So the biological sex is not going to be changed ever, but someone can decide that he or she thinks or perceives that has the opposite sex, and it is up to him or to her to decide whether or not to start a procedure to try to cosmetically change their appearance to, to seem of the opposite sex. But that's something that I think it's acceptable when you are an adult, when you have, the capability to decide by yourself in an informed and mature way. So I don't think, for example, that gender ideology should be promoted by the government and the public institutions. And that is one of the policies that I agree with Donald Trump. I don't agree with many of his actions. He is an American millionaire who is, a son of his culture and a son of his economic system. And he is always going to try to make things in the way in which the United States will remain as the most powerful country in the world, and the American companies to keep dominating the economic landscape around the whole planet. And that's okay. I think that maybe if I were the president of the United States, I would do the same. It's normal to think that a political superpower, is going to try to keep that superpower into his hands. So it's at certain point normal that he's trying to keep America as the first superpower around the world. And it keeps being so. That matter that China is now the superpower, and that I don't know, Europe can dispute that place. I think it's wrong. The United States keep being the most powerful country in the world. American companies are the richest. And if it is true that several other countries and companies are growing up, they are still far from having the dominance and the power of the United States in terms of government, in terms of an army, and also of economic power. But I think it's normal that at some time a superpower is going to decline. And just look at the history. There have been global superpowers, like the Roman Empire, global at the known world of its age. Of course, the world has always been the same, but for terms of the universal history, the Roman Empire was a global empire, because at that time America was unknown by the European people, and the European political landscape was dominated by the Roman Empire. It was a global superpower. Then there were some global empires, global in real geographical terms, like the Spanish Empire, the English, the British Empire, and those superpowers were global. They had land as colonies throughout the whole world, and at a certain point of history, they started to decline. I think it is going to happen with the United States too, but it's still far from being, like irreversible fact. At this moment, the United States, I think, keeps being the most powerful country in the world, even when it is being challenged by several other powers, countries around the world. So once say this, I think we in Mexico should have a very particular care in the relationship with this country, the United States. We are not just neighbors; they are our neighbors, and we have been neighbors for all of the history that both of the countries have been independent. It is true that there was a war in the 19th century where they came, invaded Mexico, and they took away from us the half of our homeland. It is okay, but it's something that has been, separated. It happened, I don't know, almost 200 years ago. And I don't think we should remain like hostile or nostalgic about that matter, because now Texas, Arizona, California, New Mexico, and all those American states are American. They don't feel part of Mexico anymore. They recognize their history. When I was, for example, in Texas, they recognized that they were part of Mexico at some stage of their history. They respect that. They know that. There are many places in Texas where, the cities, the towns, the rivers, the streets are called in Spanish names, but that's all. It's part of their history, and now they are American, and we Mexicans have to accept that. If we would have had the power and the stability at that time to defend our homeland and to keep those territories under the Mexican jurisdiction, it would have been great, but it didn't happen, and we cannot do anything about it. When we became independent, first of all, we were an empire. That I think it was a great idea. Maybe if we had a constitutional monarchy or a parliamentary monarchy, we would be, like a more healthy country, because a constitutional emperor who would be the chief of state, and that is far from the political corruption, would be a great referee of the political scene here in Mexico. And he or she, the emperor or the female emperor, I don't remember very well the name now in English, is the empress. I don't know. My English is not perfect. But the emperor would have the moral authority and the political power, and also, the good image to keep into his hands the resolution to, like it is made in Spain or in other countries, to dissolve the parliament and to summon for a new election. But it didn't happen. The Mexican Empire just lasted for 1 year, and the true liberator of this country, who was Agustin de Iturbide, was murdered, and then we became a republic, a chaotic and corrupt republic. And during that unstable stage of our history, the American invasion came, and we lost the half of our territory in favor of the United States. But it was that way. It happened a lot of time ago. I don't agree with nostalgic people who still claim that those are Mexican territories. They were, it's true, but they are not anymore, and we have to accept that. Even with that political and territorial disgrace, Mexico kept being a huge country. We're a huge country. We are a great country. I think in the territory of Mexico would fit several European countries, and they would be happy if they had at least the half of our territory and all the richness that is into our country. So we remained a rich and huge and very rich country. And even with our, stumbling and with lots of problems, lots of violence, corruption, lack of, amid a lot of poverty and lack of stable growing up, we have managed to become an important country in the world. Mexico is a rich country. I think it is a rich country. We are a rich country, and there are lots of opportunities here. The matter is that we are not a superpower because of several political matters like corruption, and cultural ones, like, we Mexicans tend to to make things at the very last minute. We are, sometimes not persistent enough. And there are several matters that have halted us and prevented us from being world superpower. But we are a very important country, but we are not by far the most important country in the world. The most important and powerful is the United States, whether we like it or not. And our economy is an appendix of the American economy. Here in Mexico, most of the well-being that we have is related to our neighborhoodship with the United States, because lots of American companies are here. Lots of American brands like Walmart, General Motors, there are thousands and thousands of American international companies that are well established here in Mexico, and all of them have been, having an important role in the growing up of the Mexican economy. So I think it's a huge mistake to be defending countries like Cuba, Nicaragua, Brazil, Iran. I don't know what the relationship of Mexico with, with Iran could be important. For what? What does Iran mean for us? Of course, they are human beings. They are. They have a population that has suffered a lot under the theocratic regime of the Ayatollahs, but they are not important in terms of a diplomatic and economic relationship for us. The same with Cuba. The Mexican government is spending millions of pesos trying to help an authoritarian communist regime that has put to their population on the edge of starvation. Cuba is deepening into a hole that I don't know how they are going to get out from there. Since the assassin and thief Fidel Castro, they are, like into a pothole that I don't have any idea how they are going to go out and when. They have been suffering under that dictatorship for more than 60 or 70 years, and they keep sinking into what seems to be a bottomless ocean of desperation, poverty, and problems. So I don't know why the Mexican government publicly defied the American one, defending that regime that is an open enemy of the United States. Just remember what happened in the 60s, the crisis of the Soviet missiles in Cuba, when the world was on the edge of the World War III. And the United States has and sees at Cuba as an enemy, and they are enemies of the United States. And I think because of geopolitical and political matters, the United States have not invaded Cuba yet. I think it was going to happen at a certain point, especially under Donald Trump's presidency. But it is unbelievable how the Mexican government insists in keep defending such an authoritarian regime. And it's something that I don't understand, and I will never understand. For example, when was the recent 2026 World Cup, that the Iranian selection came to play, to have a participation in the World Cup, they were not able to be hosted in the United States, and they stayed here in Mexico. And there are lots of Mexican, I was watching social media, praising the Iranians and offering them friendship, and offending to the United States, when our economy and our stability does not depend from Iran at all. It depends from the United States. I don't mean that we have to be like servants of the United States. Of course not. But without the United States, we would not be in the position that we are as an important, rich and stable country. Whether we like it or not, the United States, the American companies, and the American money that is flowing into Mexico are very important for our economy and are very important for our stability. So I don't understand why the Mexican government and lots of Mexicans are stubborn, and they are, keeping offending and defying to the United States. Just imagine what would happen if American companies left Mexico suddenly. We would sink into poverty on the next very minute. I have worked for American companies in a remote way. I was at some point of my life in the United States, in the Central Texas zone. I was over there in Austin, in Houston, Waco, and those cities that are in the central part of the United States. That's an experience that I would talk about in another video. And it was great. American people are kind people. I never felt any kind of rejection. They were kind with me. They were kind to me, sorry. They were, they were very good hosts. They treated me in a fair way. They were kind to me. They were, astonishingly kind. They took care of me. They taught me a lot of things. And in that opportunity, I fell in love with American, labor culture. And then when I was back to Mexico, I brought a lot of ideas that I was able to apply in the job that I had at that time, things that I learned in the United States. And I have also worked for American companies. And I have been happy working for those companies because they pay well and they are not perfect or ideal or good. Even they are not even good people. American companies, the American corporate world is complicated. Money is what commands there. And American companies do anything but lose money. At the point that they are going to lose money, they start to lay off people and they don't care about it. And they have the very same issues that Mexican companies have too. The very same. They are not like ideal, but their culture, their labor culture is totally aimed to the results. If you have results, if you have a good performance, it is more probable that you keep your job than if you are like here in Mexico, protected by many labor laws that make almost impossible to fire you if you are not a good worker. So I have worked for American companies. I have been paid in dollars, and I have been happy on those times. And even recognizing that they are not perfect and they also have issues, and that American companies are also mean. But I have learned a lot. So even working in a remote way, American companies have an influence here in Mexico, and they contribute to our well-being because they create and deliver for Mexicans sources of work that we don't have here, opportunities that we don't have here, salaries that we cannot afford to pay here or to earn here. So I don't know what is the insistence of the Mexican government to be supporting and publicly, offering help to such authoritarian and nefarious regimes like the Cuban one. I don't think that American government is perfect and that Donald Trump is like an angel. Of course, the American government is mean. If they were not mean, they wouldn't be the most powerful country in the world. Donald Trump is not an angel. He is far from there. He is, uh, how can I express it? He is clever. He is ruthless and he's smart. That's the reason because he is in the presidency of the United States, even after trying to be destroyed in several ways. But he's the president of the United States, and many of the things that he has are well supported by common sense. Not all of them, of course. He has made mistakes, and he will keep making mistakes because there is no perfect person in the world. Just imagine what the complexity should be or must be to be managing the government of such an important country like the United States. And I don't feel any kind of hostility toward the American people. They have been kind for me. I don't agree with people who hate Americans. Gringos, we call them here gringos here in Mexico. I think it's derived from the stage of our history who were invaded from the United States, and the American soldiers wore a green uniform, and the expression gringo, I think, came from the contraction of green go. It's like gringo, soldier in the green uniform, go to your country, and it was contracted and merged into a single word called gringo. I don't hate gringos. I have interacted with them. I talked to them. I have worked alongside with them and for them, and they are normal people. They are parents, children, spouses. They have dreams. They have problems. They have difficulties. The fact that the United States is the richest country in the world does not prevent them from suffering problems as all of the human beings have in the world. They are not exempted from that kind of matter because it's normal in the human life to be facing problems. Of course, their way to fix those problems is different, and that has allowed them to be the most powerful country around the world. And so I don't hate Americans at all. They have demonstrated to me that they are good people, normal people, people with problems, with dreams, with aspirations, and they have been able to become into the most important country in the world. I would like to show you in this image. You can see the image that I am showing here to you. It says that Mexico is not a friend of the United States, according to Trump. because he says that the problem is Mexico because of the narco traffic. Narco traffic is not a matter that is just a matter of Mexico. If there wouldn't be the market for consumption of drugs that exists in the United States, I think the matter of narco traffic would be not inexistent but controllable. But even in that way, that they are part of the problem and also of the solution, in some way I understand that what Trump means is that he's not feeling like we are cooperating with them and that our government is openly hostile toward the American one. Not maybe toward the American population, but towards the American people. And I don't think it's very smart because we depend a lot from the United States. They have the key of our stability, economical, political, and social stability. And if at some point they decide to do something about it, we can face huge problems. I don't think it's a very smart matter for our government to be all of the days offending and challenging and defying to the American government. I think it's stupid and that they are praising the Cuban, the Iranian, or the Brazilian regimes. They don't contribute to any stability of us. Of course, their populations are respectable. I have met people from the whole world, Iranians among them, Cubans among them, Brazilians among them, lots of Brazilians. I have worked with them too, and they are like the Americans, normal and respectable people, but their governments are a disaster, especially the Cuban one. That bloody dictatorship should be overturned at the very first opportunity because the Cuban population has suffered decades and decades of repression and oppression. But that's something that is far beyond my reach. That's a matter of the geopolitical landscape that is far from the decisions that me or we as normal people can take. But that's a reality. It's a bloody, oppressive and authoritarian regime, and I don't know what we are doing in terms of our government praising the Cuban regime. The Cuban regime is not an asset for Mexico. On the opposite, it's a charge. The Mexican government is sending lots of money. The Mexican government is paying to Cuban doctors that I don't think what they are useful for, because I haven't seen at least one here in the city where I live, working on the streets or in any public hospital. I think the Cuban doctors are like a myth. They are like slaves that are sent by their government. They just receive a minimum portion of the payment that the Mexican government makes, and the Cuban authoritarian regime gets most of the money in order to keep the authoritarian regime keeping the power in that country, in Cuba. So I think this is a reflection. We should reflect about what the American companies and government fee mean for our country, for Mexican stability. We should be more careful about it. I don't think there are many links between the United States and Mexico. We are, you know, friends populations, but our government is not understanding it, and they don't realize that if we are a stable country, in part is because of the American contribution to our economy, and of course derived from our stability. I don't think it's a good idea to be challenging the American government. It doesn't mean that we are servant of them. Of course not. We are an independent country, but we have to recognize what are the realities of the geopolitical landscape, and that's one. We are the neighbors, and our economy is an appendix of them. I have not checked the figures and statistics, but I think the sole economies of Texas and California are bigger than the whole Mexican economy. And that's something that should put us in perspective. Okay, and finally, for the end of this video, the very first in English that I make, I would like to show you a video. by CNN, where you can see a matter of that dichotomy between the offenses and the tensions that existed between the government of Mexico and the United States, and how at the same times our populations, Mexicans and Americans, are friends, and we have a lot of things in common. Let me see if it works. I hope you can see the video. It's by CNN. It's like kind of short investigation that they did in Mexico City in a restaurant called Pinche Gringo. Nice name. Just look at it. It lasts 2 minutes.
Mexico City, Mexicans and Americans are bonding over beer, barbecue, and football. American football. Many patrons here say the escalating political feud so far hasn't sparked major anti-American sentiment.
Are you facing any backlash?
I personally haven't dealt with anything. I've been here for close to 5 years now and only been treated really, really nicely.
But this attorney says there are signs of tension, albeit small ones.
People are getting a little more angry. I was at a karaoke bar and people literally said, we don't want to sing songs in English anymore.
At the Pinche Gringo, or Darn Gringo restaurant, American co-owner Dan DeFosi says they try to diffuse those tensions.
And so we are able to operate with a bit of humility because we're not the gringo. We don't think we're better or we have a better restaurant than anybody. We're the Pinche Gringos.
He and his Mexican business partner, Roberto Luna, serve up Texas-style barbecue to an international crowd. And while anger at Trump has prompted boycotts of some major American brands, they say it hasn't fueled hostility towards them.
Where I don't believe that people automatically associate me with the policies that are happening with my government. And I think there's a real appreciation for the fact that we love this country.
Roberto says they celebrate both cultures. Mexican chefs slow cooking local beef to produce authentic American flavors.
And I don't think it's anti-American. No, we need to be pro-Mexicans, and pro-Americans and pro-everything.
Super Bowl Sunday was sold out. More than half the clients Mexican.
I can have a good relationship with an American person or with a Russian person, and it's about people, not governments.
And while big anti-Trump protests are expected on Sunday, at this restaurant they hope to keep bringing everyone together at the same table. Shasta Darlington, CNN, Mexico City.
Okay. So as you could see and as you could hear, people say that matters among government is one thing and matters among our populations is another one. We Mexicans and Americans can build together great things. American people are great people. They are normal people. They have dreams, they have problems, they have expectations, they have illusions, they have aspirations, as we Mexicans have. And together we can build great things. If the American government is right and the Mexican one is left, and they have ideological clashes, and we have a specific ideology, for example, in my case, I tend to be more right-wing than left-wing. I don't assume or think that all what the right says is okay, but most of it is. But I don't care about it when I interact with someone from another country, not just the United States. In the works that I have performed in remote way, I have been working with Americans, Canadians, Brazilians, Argentinians, Peruvians, Guatemalans, Spanish people, French, German, people from Pakistan, people from La India, people from Nigeria, from Kenya, from Australia, from New Zealand. I have been interacted with all of them, and I don't care about their political ideology, their religion. I have my religious convictions, but I don't try to put it as in the forefront in order to interact with someone else. So in the video, could realize that the co-owner of the restaurant is an American, the other one is a Mexican, and they joined together to build something special for the people in Mexico City. And the restaurant was crowded, and there were American and Mexican together eating and sharing time between themselves with no problem. And nobody cared if this was a Trump voter or a Sheinbaum voter, or it didn't matter. So that's what I mean. In Mexico, in terms of governments, the Mexican government should be more careful about what they do and the way in which they manage the relationship with the United States. Just look at that. An American brought his money here to Mexico. He put it in risk. For the benefit of Mexican people, because okay, he is earning money, he is recovering his investment, but at the same time he's offering delicious food for Mexicans and for Americans too. And in Mexico City, and the very same, when I was in the United States, I went to some Mexican restaurants in several cities like Austin or Waco, and the owners were Mexican, most of them. And it was the very same. They put their money in that country, and they were having their investment in result, and also they were making profit. And it's okay. I think we can both together to do that. When I have worked for American companies, okay, they are making profit from my work, from my activities, and I am earning a good salary from what they are making as companies, international ones. So that's my reflection. This is the very first video that I make in English. Of course, I cannot express, as I told in the beginning, in English with the same naturality that I express in Spanish. But I have attempted to make this. I think with the passing of time, I would be, improving my proficiency and my fluency. And I think you enjoy about what I have said this, and I hope this video in English language starts to build an international audience for this content. Thank you very much. Please give a like and subscribe and help me to keep producing and making this content. Thank you very much.